Our first story takes us out of King County, where today, right late afternoon, King County Detective George Alvarez was fired by the King County Sheriff's Department for, and I quote, making extremely poor tactical and officer safety decisions, which led up to a fatal shooting in Cumberland, Washington in 2019. Jennifer, the first thing that jumps out at me, I didn't know there was a Cumberland, Washington, let alone that Cumberland, Washington is in King County. Not to minimize the situation, but that was I'm gonna, after the show, I'm gonna go look on a map because
Yeah.
I'm that's the kind of geek that I am, and I want to know where Cumberland is.
So
So
I
what
actually
happened
know.
was a man was shot, Anthony Chilcott, and Anthony Chilcott was killed by King County Sheriff's deputy. The firing does not relate to the use of force, and the firing does not
Mhm.
relate to the killing of Anthony Chilcott. Chilcott stole a Ford pickup truck at a gas station. He drove off, took the pump nozzle and everything, and the person that owned the truck, their poodle was inside. A few days later, former sheriff, I guess we say former sheriff deputy Alvarez, uh, who was a plainclothes detective, was with another detective in an unmarked vehicle. They saw the truck, they saw Chilcott, and they saw the poodle.
Mhm.
Per policy, because they were in a completely unmarked vehicle with no light and siren, and they weren't in uniform or had anything that identified them as police, they were supposed to get on the radio and say, "Hey, we got this," and they're supposed, but George Alvarez decided to take care of the situation himself. So he pulled up alongside the vehicle. Uh, they got into a shouting match with Chilcott. They didn't wait for backup. Chilcott then allegedly rammed the unmarked sheriff's deputy SUV, and the two vehicles became stuck together. Sheriff Alvarez then approached the truck that Chilcott was in with a sledgehammer, smashed out the window, and got in a essentially a wrestling match over the keys of the pickup truck with Chilcott. In that, Alvarez claims that Chilcott got a hold of his gun. Both deputies at that point felt they were in danger. They fired their weapons, and Chilcott was killed. That was in November of 2019. And again, the issue there, Jennifer, wasn't the use of the death. The reason they got fired was for not radioing for backup, trying to make an arrest out of uniform, not identifying themselves as police officers, and firing when there was apparently like broad daylight and a lot of other people around in the area that they were in, with kind of wanton disregard for public safety. So King County Sheriff fired Detective Alvarez. Not easy to get a police officer fired in the state of Washington.
No, so I actually know where Cumberland is. I have family that lives in Ravensdale, which is not actually far from Cumberland, and it's very small, going towards like Enumclaw, past Maple Valley, and that area. So it doesn't actually, like, we always talk about driving through those areas and things, what a pain in the ass the cops are there, because they, really don't have a lot going on and like to pull people over. But to approach somebody's car unmarked and pull some savior bullshit with a sledgehammer and then, try to wrestle him for the keys without calling for backup. What the hell was this dude thinking?
Jennifer, all I know is that if somebody started yelling at me
Yeah.
and then comes at my vehicle with a sledgehammer and starts smashing windows out, it's on with a capital O. I am
Yeah.
fighting for my life at that point. If they're just
Exactly.
dressed
And
like
so,
I am right now.
yeah, exactly. So he could say he's a cop, but we've seen incidences of people saying they're cops and not being cops. So who is he? How is he to know for sure that that's what's happening? Even though he has stolen this vehicle, but still to approach somebody's vehicle as a cop in an unmarked car, likely in street clothes, with a sledgehammer is pretty bold, and just kind of like, I don't know, reeks of some kind of weird power complex.
It does really reek of mistakes. The other thing that I'm a little surprised is typically when officers are staring down being fired, they resign because if they resign, they avoid the fire on their record and they get to go be a police officer somewhere else all over again. So it is a little surprising to me that he stuck it out until fired. I would presume that there is a very onerous appeal process that they will go through at this point, and we'll see what happens. We'll continue to monitor this story. There is the possibility that former Detective Alvarez, won't appeal, but I don't want to put words or thoughts in the man's head. But typically, what we see, they appeal and they fight tooth and nail on these decisions, not just here
Yeah.
in King County, but on a national level.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this plays out, but definitely look up Cumberland on a map, look it up on Google. And population is really small, little tiny small town out headed towards like Mount Rainier and Enumclaw.
Yeah, I'm seeing in the comments people are like, I had to Google where it is. It's like
Yeah.
there was a whole convo scrolling by on where it's located.